We've been digging into the trends from week 1, and we found some players who are skyrocketing with opportunity, who could be blowing up here soon. We're looking at wide receivers. We're looking at running backs. They're getting touches. They're running routes. They're seeing targets. And they may not have produced big time in week 1, but they have shown some indicators that maybe in some game scripts that they could blow up here in the near future. Hit that subscribe button right now. Stop missing out on this content because we're dropping this information on the daily, multiple videos a day, doing deep dives, deep digging the stats so you can look at these advanced metrics so you make a decision on what you want to do with your fantasy team on the waiver wire, on trades, lineup decisions. We're here for you. Hit that button. Stop missing out. But let's take a look at these 10 players for today. First guy we're talking about is Michael Pittman. Very interesting player going in this year's draft. Was a mid-round wide receiver in fantasy drafts this year. A lot of people were skeptic on him due to Anthony Richardson, due to the volume in the offense, which should be natural. However, in the preseason, in limited fashion, small sample size, Richardson was targeting him heavy, and now we're seeing a good target share, 28.2% target share, 73 air yards, 33.5% share of the air yards, scored 23.7 fantasy points in his first game with Anthony Richardson, had a 72% route participation rate. I think he was slept on due to the situation, and I think this was a great game script as well because you're playing the Jaguars, up and down game here, lots of volume. So one thing we can really say from week 1 in positive game scripts, Michael Pittman's going to eat. But we can also say this, he's going to be on the field running routes, running a large percentage of them, and he's going to be seeing targets. And workload can equate to fantasy production. That's what we're seeing here. Anthony Richardson likes to light it up to Michael Pittman, and that's something you need to pay attention to over the next few weeks. Going to running back, big news today, and I'm going to do a full video on DeAndre Swift on the You Need series, so be on the lookout for that. But Kenneth Gainwell out with an injury. One thing we found when digging the stats here, he only played 19 snaps. However, he ran a route on 13 of those. So they want to use him in the passing game. Had a 34.2 route participation rate. Pretty high for a running back, especially one in a committee like this, especially when Kenneth Gainwell got a bulk of the snaps and touches. So that's something you want to look at. I think it's really going to be hard to want to start him. You really want to see things through with him. However, it's going to be up and down with him. We already know this. There's going to be DeAndre Swift games, and it's going to be very boom bust. It's going to be up and down. He's going to get his opportunity, just not going to know when. But those positive game scripts where the Eagles got to pass a lot, and we already know he's running a lot of routes, especially for the amount of snaps he gets, and we're going to see him get more snaps, that's a good indicator. Be on the lookout for the deep dive later today. Next, Chris Olave. And we said he was being undervalued in drafts. That's the big takeaway. And he is. And he was. Because a 30.3% target share, 129 air yards, that's elite. That's top tier. Should have been a first-round selection in fantasy, honestly. Because we're probably going to see this for the rest of the year as long as he's healthy. And you got him in an early third, late second, mid-second, early second. You got him at a discount. This is a first-round quality wide receiver in drafts this year that you caught on a discount. That's what we were talking about. Of course, everybody liked him, but not everybody was saying, hey, get him in first. He's worth the first. Catch that discount. Always smash that button on Chris Olave. If he's there in the early third, take it. If he's there in the late second, take it. If he's there in the mid-second, take it. Because he's giving you that type of results. A 30% target share, 129 air yards, 80% route participation rate. After the rookie season we saw last year, and with a better quarterback play, you can't really go wrong here. And he's a guy, I don't even think you can trade for him. I don't even know if it's possible. You're going to pay up, but maybe watch for some down weeks because volatility happens to everybody, and you may want to capitalize on that. Next, Samaje Perine. Not the greatest fantasy performance, but we got 11.8 points out of him. The thing about this, 12 32.5% target share. Pretty decent for a running back who's sharing the field with Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams having a good share of the snaps. And a 37.5% opportunity share because he saw a lot of targets in this game. He also ran a lot of routes, a 45.9% route participation rate. Think about this. They're in the AFC West. They got the Chiefs twice. They got the Chargers twice. They got the Raiders again. They're going to be in some shootouts down the line. Very interesting player to look at if you're hurting. Very interesting player if you're hurting because he's going to be used in the passing game. Somebody you want to look at in those plus matchups. Also, a lot of this of what we're looking at can also be used in DFS. Might be even better for that. But look for him to be used in the passing game in some of these favorable matchups where the Broncos have to air it out and the game script's going to be tight. Next, Zay Jones. 21.9% target share, 33% of the air yards. And we stated him as a buy during draft season because he was going to be on the field in 2 wide receiver sets, and that's what happened. And you want a piece of this Jaguars offense. This offense is explosive. They can move the ball all over the yard, and Zay Jones proved last year that he can be productive. Having a 21% share of the targets is very good, and then getting air yards on top of that, very solid production. 16.5 fantasy points. He was undervalued, and now you got to think of him as a starter going forward, especially when you got to play the matchups. Next, Travis Etienne, staying with the Jaguars here. 15.6% target share, 82.9% route participation rate, highest among all running backs in the NFL last week. That is why he's in here today, because he's running a lot of routes, being used heavy in the passing game. So when the Jaguars are supposed to be in shootouts, when the game script looks like that, when you see the over-unders and the spreads and it's tight, you may want to have a lot more Travis Etienne that week, whether it's in DFS or more confidence when you're starting him. But he's going to be used a lot in the passing game. We're already seeing that. We should see more of that. We should see more game scripts like this where he's going off in the passing game, getting some opportunity, and he's a player that could go more nuclear than expected. Next, Elijah Moore. We were wondering what was going to happen with him. So cheap that he was an instant buy, especially at the wide receiver spot. 24% target share in week 1, 64 air yards, 20% share of the air yards, and this was an ugly game in the rain. Things were slowed down. Ran 80% of the routes. So that is solid workload for his first game with the Browns. Look for this to continue, if not increase going forward. Remember, he broke out as a rookie, had that awful year last year due to the Jets being the Jets. Now with the Browns, we have Deshaun Watson there, and he loves to target the slots. We've known that from his days in Houston. Now he's got a tremendous slot receiver here. Look for him to be productive this year. Look for him to have some big games. 9 fantasy points last week, but the opportunity is going to be there, and that wasn't the greatest game script for a slot receiver. We're going to see better game scripts for Elijah Moore here in the near future. Next, Ezekiel Elliott. Not the greatest at all. 7 fantasy points. So why are you talking about him, Bruce? Here is the angle. The game script against the Eagles was ugly. The Patriots had to throw the ball. They had to try to move it through the air. And Zeke saw 13% target share, 42% opportunity share. He was used a lot in the passing game because he's a tremendous pass blocker. And then you also have to use him as a receiver as well to really mix things up. So think about the game scripts going forward with Ezekiel Elliott. Think about the Patriots game scripts. Think about them when they have to push the football. He's going to be used in the passing game. That could allow him to see some targets and some opportunity. That could allow him to give you some splash weeks here and there. Is he a must pick up, must get? No. But DFS, you're hurting in your lineups here in the middle of the season, and he's there looking at you. Think about those matchups. Think about those opportunities, and maybe you can sneak away with some fantasy points here and there on some weeks. Next, John Dodson. Got you 9 fantasy points last week, and the game script sucked because it was against the Arizona Cardinals. And I told you in the must-start video and the sneaky start video, even though I had to pick players from this game, I don't want to start anybody from this game because it was going to be ugly and you do not know what's going to happen. He still had a 24% share of the targets, 30% share of the air yards. Ugly game script. He's going to be in some better game scripts, and for getting this workload, along with a 95% route participation rate, one of the highest among wide receivers and pass catchers, you're going to want that. He is a buy low right now. He is a huge buy low. Catch him on the cheap. Sell one of those cheap running backs you don't like. He is a cheap get, especially for those positive game scripts. That Arizona game, slow game script. We were calling that out. We knew that was going to happen. They have Dodson at quarterback. What are you going to expect? You didn't want to start anybody from this game. Now you're getting a guy here with some upside, with a lot of workload that you can catch on the cheap. The last player today is Jerome Ford. He played 30 snaps in week 1 against the Bengals. 38.5% opportunity share. Something you want to be interested in because something happens to Nick Chubb. He's the next man up. Also, when the game scripts get out of hand, he's going to be getting opportunity. He's a player to watch. He's sitting on waivers. You do not need to pick him up. This isn't about that, but he's a player to monitor. We're going to monitor his snaps. We're going to monitor the work rate. We're going to monitor his usage here because this is an indicator that something might happen down the line later in the season, whether it's next week, 6 weeks later. We're going to watch Jerome Ford. That's the one thing about it because that workload's pretty heavy. And that game script was pretty optimal to use your second running back. He didn't run any routes at all. However, he was getting some opportunity there, and opportunity is what matters with running back. So pay attention to Jerome Ford. Watch the snaps. I will be too, and I'll share them with you guys as we move forward throughout the season. But those are 10 interesting trends with these players. Some guys are going more nuclear than expected. Some guys are getting more opportunity than expected. Some of these lesser-known players are seeing more targets, more routes ran, and more rushing attempts than expected. And you need to pay attention to that because you cannot score fantasy points unless the ball's coming your way. And you have to be in position for that. Let me know your comments below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Catch you on the next video.